Okay, we continue on Yoma. Ayin Zayin Amud Beis 77b. And we were currently discussing the liberties taken to allow one to observe Yom Kippur properly. And the conditions of this liberty with respect to washing on Yom Kippur is two conditions. Number one, that's only part of the body. Number two, that the person is not using the water for the sake of pleasure or even washing. And examples we gave were washing hands from the Netilat Yadayim, washing hands for cleanliness, or any other part of the body for cleanliness. And then yesterday we discussed someone walking through a river, even if the water goes up to their shoulders, for the purposes of listening to a lecture, a Torah lecture, doing some mitzvah, greeting a parent. We read a story of two scholars hollering across the river, inviting somebody to come across to ask a halacha question, things of that nature. Now the Gemara is going to discuss, just more broadly speaking, are you even allowed to walk in the river for fear of danger? Right? There's a commandment in the Torah, Shemartem b'ma'odin es nafshei. We are required to guard our health, to take care of our body, and there's a reasonable risk person is allowed to take when engaging in the world outside, but one is not to engage in such risks that are dangerous, where the risk is too high to damaging oneself. Sorry?
Particularly for the day of Yom Kippur?
No, this is just generally, any day, which is why the Gemara is going to ask, are you even allowed to do this during the weekday? Never mind if you're allowed to walk on Yom Kippur with water up to your shoulders. Are you allowed to do that during the week? Anytime, because it's dangerous. So that is, the line begins with the word chalukai. Yeah. The line begins with the word chalukai. It's a little bit lower than halfway from the bottom of the page. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words in, 6 words in is uvachoil. See it? Chalukai, maskefla, Rav Yosef, uvachoil, yes. So, maskefla. Maskefla, Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef challenged. I mentioned yesterday the number of ways the Gemara can introduce questions. Yesterday we read the introduction to a question with the word iboya, which means an inquiry, where the person asking has no agenda. And then there is another way of introducing a question, which is maskef. Maskef is a way of challenging based on maskef is based on a source greater than the one speaking. No, that's Mesei. Maskef is a challenge based on logic. Yeah. So, Maskef Rav Yosef challenged. And during the weekday, is it permissible to do such a thing? Walk through a river up to your shoulders? But the verse reads as follows. This is a verse in Yecheskel, and Yecheskel is being given a vision of the future redemption. And the vision essentially is, he sees a river of water flowing from the Holy of Holies through the temple, through Jerusalem, through Israel, and essentially the whole world. And it's a vision. Obviously there's endless commentary on this, and the overarching theme is, at least in its metaphorical sense, is the idea of godliness spreading forth from the Holy of Holies to blanket the earth. And that all, like actually using the metaphor of water, like we use the metaphor of water for Torah, and as we learned in our learning the Rambam's laws of Mashiach, quoting from Isaiah, quoting the verse, describing Mashiach's era, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of God, kamayim l'yam machasim, like water covers the seabed. Right? There's a metaphor of Torah, something that you drink, but also something you submerge into, like a mikveh. You submerge into a mikveh. It's a purity. It's a submersion where you're completely submersed within the knowledge of Hashem. And this is kind of the overarching theme of this vision. And this river flows from the Holy of Holies.
I wonder what their sanitary conditions were in those days. Where did they go to the bathroom?
Not very good. We discussed this a bit in Gemara Brachas.
To the river, and the river is full of excrement. Oh.
Yeah, we discussed this a little bit in Brachas. And the Gemara discusses how far away you have to go from the city. It's a little bit... yeah. It seems from the Gemara there was more than that. But anyway, that's not for now. So, Yecheskel describes the details of the prophecy are like this. And the vision is like this. he's being shown this vision by like an angel of sorts. And the pasuk we take this: Vayimed elef ba'ama. He measured 1,000 feet of river, 1,000 amma of river. Vayaverdeini b'mayim, and he made me walk through the water. This is Yecheskel talking about his vision. The angel made him walk through the water. Meya pesayim, the water was up to my ankles. Mikan, had from here we derive shemut lavrad apesayim, that a person can walk in water that's up to his ankles and there's no fear of danger, because in the vision Yecheskel walks through water up to his ankles. Then the verse continues. Vayimad elef, and he measured another 1,000 feet, another 1,000 amma of water of this river. Vayavereini b'mayim, and he made me walk through the water again. And mayim berchayim, this time the water was up to my knees. So bikan, from this point, we would derive shemot elav barad b'chayim, that a person can walk in water that's up to the knees. And the verse continues. Vayimid elef, and then the angel, the vision, measured another 1,000 amma. Vayavireni mei masnayim, and he walked me in water up to my waist. So this is the vision. He's walking through water first up to his ankles, then to his knees, then to his waist. Obviously, this is all very significant. And what this all means, besides for what we described earlier, the knowledge of God filled the world with, like the ocean covers the seabed. It also harkens back to the splitting of the sea before they get go to Mount Sinai, the splitting of the sea before they enter Israel, splitting of the river, and then when Mashiach comes, another vision of the river splitting. So this idea of walking through water as you get into this new era. All these things have symbolism. But the point that Gemara is bringing here is the Mikan, from these verses we derive Shemut elav rad masnayim, that a person may walk through water that's up to his waist. Mikan ve'elach, anything higher than the waist. We read the next verse, which is Vayimed elef, and he nachal. Vayimed elef, and the vision measured another 1,000 feet. Nachar shalalu ulchalaver, a river which I could not pass. So the verse has 4 levels. Ankles, he walked me through it. 1,000 feet. Knees, he walked me through it. Another 1,000 amma, not feet, amma, and I walked through it up to my waist. And then the verse goes on to say, and then there was another 1,000 amma, and I couldn't walk through that water. So which implies
That river must have been wide.
no, it's not 1,000 amma wide, 1,000 amma length.
Just traverse, not traverse.
So he wasn't walking 1,000 amma. He could have been walking just I don't know how wide the river is, but he's taking him downstream. 1,000 amma, and that 1,000 amma length is only ankle deep. Another 1,000 amma length only.
But the water's rushing down.
It's going up, the water level's rising.
The water level is rising, which means the water is probably going down, I assume.
It's going down. It's hard to walk in that.
That's what Gemara is going to tell us in a moment. But at the moment here, it seems that up into a waist, one may walk. After that, it's impossible to traverse. That's what the Gemara that's what the verse seems to be implying. But you're right, and the Gemara is going to address that in a moment. So Amar Abai says, as you say, shiny nachal, a river is different. They're difi maya, because the water is rushing. So in other words, if the water isn't rushing, if the water is still, you can walk on the water up to your shoulders. If the water is rushing past the waist, dangerous. Don't try it. But the Gemara kind of takes a sidetrack a bit and talks about who and how one can traverse this river in the vision. So first it says like this: perhaps I can be taken across through a small little boat. I'm sorry, swimming. Boat's next. Swimming. Talmud Lema, the verse says, Ki go amayim mi sachu. The water got so strong from the one who is sach. My mi sachu, who is the one who is sach? Shiyuta, someone who's swimming. They refer to swimming as saicha, and it's a sin here, and therefore, when the verse says the water got so strong, even more powerful than sachu, than the one who is swimming, means the river was flowing in this vision of Mashiach coming so strong you can't even swim across it. Maybe you can think that you can cross it using a small little boat, like a fisherman's boat. Talmud Lema, the verse reads, Bal telech boy ani shayet. One cannot go, even I who am on a boat. No, sorry, the word ani is on a boat. Ani shayet, the boat is floating. Shayat means floating. Ani is like aniya, like the boat. Right. So I couldn't walk across it. I couldn't swim across it. And a small boat can't go across it. Perhaps you might think that you can go across this river through a big boat. Talmud Leimar comes the verse and says, "V'tzi adir," and a great ship, le'avarenu, couldn't cross it. My mashma, what is the implication of this word "tzi adir," which I translated as a large or a strong boat? So the Gemara is going to tell us how we got to that translation from these words. Rav Yosef, as Rav Yosef translated, you cannot go through it through a boat of tzidin, of fishers, but not fishers as in like a small little fisherman boat, but people who are exporting fish. So you're talking about large ships, and this word tzidin, which is like the word to describe this kind of boat, is alluded to in the word tzi, which is in the verse tzi ader, a strong tzi. Tzi is a tzidin of boating fish. It's a large boating fish, a shipping boat. And then it goes on, and a big like Teguzine, and a big boat cannot cross this river. So this river, the current that's coming out of the Holy of Holies, is so great that nobody can cross it. Obviously, all this is significant, and many of the commentaries on the verses there discuss this at length.
So is it conditional on the type of water it is?
Yeah, so the halacha already ended before, that if it's a rushing river up until the waist, other water up until the shoulder. But the Gemara goes on a sidetrack now discussing that verse there, and that the verses, since we're discussing how the water is rushing so fast, the Gemara goes on to say that it's so strong that even a big boat couldn't cross the river. Essentially, this is this vision. Moreover, now this vision doesn't just have a physical description, in that the boats couldn't cross it, but a spiritual component as well. Amar Yehuda ben Pazi says, "Af malach mavis ein lo rishus la'aver b'soicha." Even the angel of death does not have permission to cross this river. Meaning, it would seem like what it means to say is that in the Messianic era, death has no hold. And it's metaphorically being described as the angel of death not being able to cross this river. If this river is metaphoric for divine revelation, right, then the divine revelation is so strong that even the angel of death can't do its job there. Why? Sorry? Yeah. In other words, the point is, there's no, with this overexposing of divine revelation that happens when Mashiach comes, that emerges from the Holy of Holies, no negativity can get there. Not a small boat, not a big boat, not the angel of death, not the Yetzer Hara, nobody. Because we're submerged within the truth of Hashem.
But this whole...
It's all a vision Yecheskel is seeing.
Actually, some people are from Yeshaya.
Sorry?
Some psukim were from Yecheskel, but the next pasuk was
The next one where he's proving, actually the
Yeshaya. Some same vision.
no, that's true. The one verse from Isaiah is the verse about the big boat not being able to cross. Everything else came from Yecheskel, but it's a similar vision. What are you going to say?
Both posts actually are Yeshaya. The small one, the big one. Swimming was Yecheskel. It's interesting.
Right, both boats come from it.
Yecheskel fruits.
What were you going to ask?
And
This whole discussion started with if we're okay to cross the river because of the inherent dangers.
Yeah, so that discussion's over.
Right, but if the angel of death has no hold on it, what would
Then it's a
what
crazy,
would make this
strong river.
dangerous?
Yeah, so I don't know that the halacha is derived from the vision itself so much as from the wording of the vision. The wording of the vision is such that Yecheskel says, after this point I couldn't cross. After which point? After the point that I was able to cross up to my waist. But after my waist I couldn't cross. In other words, the vision goes so far as to say that it was a very, very strong river, fine. But from the wording of his vision, that after this point I couldn't cross, we derive that after water higher than the waist we can't cross. Even though the vision goes on to talk about even more wild stuff.
Right, okay.
Right, but the wording is such, following?
That's the practical.
That's a practical element of this vision. And then he just goes on to talk about the vision as a whole.
Right. Okay.
Yeah?
Depends how the terrain is and everything else.
Sorry?
It all depends how the terrain is also.
Yeah.
The terrain is flat. Like when we were,
Yeah, so the Shulchan Aruch takes it into consideration. Even a river one could cross if it's not so strong.
because on our honeymoon we climbed the Alps, Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
And we came from part of the plane. I mean, the mountain goes like this.
Yeah, so
we
depending.
walk along the path.
So the river could be very thin, but if she's going downhill, it's very dangerous.
Small river there.
Yeah.
You know, stream coming down.
Right,
We had to cross it.
Okay.
And you're like this because you got to keep your vision.
Okay, I want to conclude the vision and just share an interesting thought. So he says like this. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi said that even the angel of death cannot cross over this river. It says here with respect to this vision, that a river, a boat could not swim across this river. And it says elsewhere in Eov, I believe, in Eov, where God is telling this Satan where you're coming from, and the Satan said, I couldn't come because I came from the earth and I had to walk through something. And he says, Misoy ba'aretz, I traveled from the earth. And the word he uses to describe the traveling is shoit, which is the same word described here of the floating boat, using this word shayit. And therefore, if the angel of death is traveling is via shayit, and the verse here says that even a shayit could not come across, means that even the angel of death couldn't come across this river. Because this is the angel of death's means of traveling. Obviously,
get to the river, we'll get you.
yeah. But I'll make a comment on that in a second. Amar Pinchas says, Mishum Rav Huna, the name of Rav Huna, Tzafrua, the name of Rav Huna from Tzafura, I guess it's a place where it came from. He says, Mayin hayotzim beis kadashim, this river that emerges, this well, which turns into the stream that emerges from the Holy of Holies that's described in this vision. First, it looks like the horns of grasshoppers. There's certainly significance here. Once it reaches, so it starts in the Holy of Holies, and then it comes out like horns of grasshoppers, which I guess means like two streams popping out on the sides like that. You ever seen like horns of grasshoppers? Right? So two streams coming out like that. Yeah, yeah. Like these two antenna things, yeah. It's like these two streams popping out. That's what it would seem like. And then, once it gets to the Pesach Heichal, once it gets to the opening of the outer chamber, Nasa Kachut, or actually the inner chamber, the chamber where like the menorah is, and the chamber where the showbread is. So there it becomes Kochut Shel Shti. It becomes like a string of, I think it's called woof, which is like the thread that goes one direction, goes the width direction. And then Kivan Shegia La'ulam, once it once this river continues and reaches the outer chamber of the temple, Natska Chut Shel Arav, it becomes like the wrap, W-R-A-P, the warp, I'm sorry, the string that goes the vertical lines. So I guess it means that it goes this way and then it goes straight that way. Like what's the difference between the lines that are vertical or horizontal? Thickness is different. Okay? Fine? But I guess it emerges into one or maybe two, I don't know. Kivin Shegia Pesach Hazara, once it gets literally to the outer section of the temple, right? There's three sections of the temple, or four. Kodesh Kadashim, Heichal, Ulam, and Azara. Azara is where most of the Jews are. Ulam is where the sacrifices are. Heichal is where the menorah and the showbread is, and the smaller altar. And then the Kodesh Kadashim is where the Holy Ark is, right? So it starts in the Holy Ark, to, like grasshoppers, comes to the second place where the menorah is, like the thinner of the two, the woof, and then it gets to the next chamber where the karbonis are, and then it gets like the warp, and then it goes to the azara, that chamber where the Jews can go in, and there, nasa kepi pach katan, it becomes like the opening of a small jug. Obviously, all very significant. But the Tanan, this is similar to what you stated in the Messianic text. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov says, Mayim mifachin asidim li yotzim tachas miftan habayis. Water will start to bubble up from under the entrance of the temple. From here, the water would rush forward till it gets to the opening of the house of David, which is King David's palace, which is some distance, I think it's in the next mountain. Once this river arrives at the house of David, Nasa Kanachal Shotif becomes like a rushing river, in which all those are impure, and a woman who is impure, who is a nida, and a man who has this charge that causes him is impure, or a woman who gives birth, they can go to the mikvah in this river. She as the verse reads, on that day when Mashiach comes, there will be an opening at the house of David, and for those who dwell in Jerusalem, for those who need to be cleansed from their impurity. And then final comment in this thing the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef says, from here we derive that a woman who is a nida should sit in water up to her shoulders, because the river, I suppose, is such that you sit up to your shoulders. Right? Because
You sit?
because the it has to be big enough that you can sit up to your shoulders. In other words, the water has to be high enough that you're able to stand up to your shoulders. And the reason is because otherwise the woman would have gone to mikveh earlier. The fact that the woman only goes to mikveh once the water reaches the house of David means it has to be high enough to go to her shoulders. Right? So it's more of it's not the halacha. The halacha is as long as it's big enough to hold a person, even if it's lower, you can still go to the mikveh there. Okay, so this is the end of the vision, and obviously there's lots of layers of meaning, but just the following comes to mind, and this is something that we can think of practically for ourselves. At the beginning, he said the only people that can cross is ankles, up to knees, and waist. So this language is similar to the description of the Exodus, where chagru masnechem, they girded their loins. That's the description. They girded their loins, and they makal b'yetchem, and they had the staff in their hand, and they went out of Egypt like that. And Chassidus explains all these levels of what it means to gird their loins, and what does it mean they hold their staff. The Marash is a long, full book describing this, and the Mosnayim, the girded loins, is a reference to Amunah, having faith. And the feet, the ankles and knees are reference, or the ankles are reference to action, doing Torah mitzvahs. So there's faith, Torah mitzvahs, and the knee is perhaps a reference to, we use the word knee, berach, to describe bracha, which means drawing down. In other words, all to say, this divine revelation is so over intense that nothing can make it there. Not the angel of death, not the big boat, not the small boat, nobody. What's the only thing that can make it into this revelation? Is the Jew who's strapped with his faith, who's drawn down God's Torah and done God's mitzvahs. He can traverse into this river. It's the only people who cross this river, right? Is at the ankles, knees, and waist. Anything beyond that, nobody can go across this river. And if these three are a reference to a Jewish service of Hashem, then that would explain why you can cross the river. In other words, who's the one that's fortified to be able to experience this divine revelation is the one who's girded with faith and Torah mitzvahs. And this is similar to that which it says in Tanya in chapter 37, that the revelation of Mashiach is the same thing as revelation at Sinai. And the revelation at Sinai was so great, the Jews all died. So how are they going to handle it when Mashiach comes? Answer, Hashem gave us Torah. Torah is called Oyer, Torah is called strength. And through our years and years of study, throughout our exile, serving Hashem, we build up, not immunity, but we build up a strength to be able to handle the divine revelation that we're going to experience when Mashiach comes. And that's perhaps what's referred to here as only the Jew with his ankles, knees, and waist can go through the river, whereas the angel of death, symbolic of the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, they don't make it here.
So when Abraham went up the mountain with Yitzchak,
Yeah?
it says that at one point Satan had a river there, and Abraham went up to his nose.
Yeah.
So he overdid it.
Similar to Nachshon ben Menodov,
Yeah.
who walks the river up to his nose, right?
Yeah. The one at the Sea of Reeds.
Yeah. It's a demonstration of faith, right? Which would be similar to the idea of the girding one's loins, which is a symbol of faith.
So if your will was so strong that you want to cross the river and it's covering you up to here,
Just keep on going.
you keep on going then.
Yeah.